Hey guys, welcome to The Identity Shift. Good afternoon, everybody, and welcome back to another segment of The Identity Shift. And I'm your girl, Tia Upshaw. And who we have today, as most of you guys will already know, is Vanessa Burns. Hey, Vanessa, how are you?
Hey Tia, how are you? I'm doing great. Thanks for having me on.
Of course, of course. Even though it's the weekend and it's a holiday weekend, you were still able to stop what you were doing to support me and help me out. And I definitely want to have a conversation with you, Vanessa, around grants and funding and how entrepreneurs and non for profits who are grassroots can really get themselves prepared to be grant and funded ready. Vanessa, for the ones who don't know who you are, which is crazy if they don't. If they don't know who you are, can you tell them a little bit about who Vanessa Burns is and what inspired you to start going from one career to where you're at now? I don't want to say too much with grant writing.
Sure. I'm Vanessa Burns, and I own Vanessa Burns Consulting, one-stop grant shop. And I actually, a little bit about myself, the fun stuff, I guess, is I've been a lifelong resident of North End, Halifax. And I've got two beautiful grown daughters,
Yes.
solo parent for many years, and I have a fur baby named Arthur. But really, my career started many years ago, and I took a job in the social impact sector. And that's a nonprofit sector, whatever you want to call it.
Yeah.
Yeah, and as I took a job, it was more like kind of events focused and things like that. And I worked in that sector from, I mean, my 2005, I guess, right through till 2020. So you can do the math.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, so I've had a lot of years experience in that sector. And I did various roles, different fundraising roles, whether it was events, whether it was asking people for big donations. But every piece of my role had a contingent with grants or writing or, asking for money, that type of thing. So to kind of make a longer story short, the pandemic hit. We all know how that went,
Yeah, we got to pivot.
right?
That
And
good
I
old
lost my
favorite
job.
word.
They didn't want me anymore, so I lost my job and decided, I was always told I had that entrepreneurial drive, that entrepreneurial spirit, and I should go out on my own. But, as a solo parent, it's not that easy.
No.
So I put that off for many years, and then the pandemic hit, and the opportunity was given to me to start my own business. So I said, fuck that, let's do it. So I decided
Let's
to
do
start my own
it.
business, right? And that was 4 years ago, and I said I'd give it 1 year, and it's still going. So it must be must be doing something right. But really, I didn't start off in the grant space. I started off more wanting to kind of do, it was like communications, writing. It was like fundraising consulting, generalized fundraising consulting. I kept getting asked all these questions.
I mean, it kind of aligns with
It
it, but
does
it's
align.
so it's totally different in a sense.
Well, there is. I mean, yeah. But then people were asking me, oh, like, do you write grants? Oh, what about
Oh
this?
well, maybe I will if you need me
You know,
to.
so I was listening, going, oh, okay. There's people that are obviously in need of this. I didn't think much of it. I mean, I've just written grants for work, and then I thought, well, okay, this must be a niche little market. I mean, let's see what it's like. So I explored it a little bit, and then I realized that people actually made consulting businesses around this, and I thought, you know what? So I kind of tweaked my business a little bit to focus more on the grants, and I registered with the Grant Professionals Association, and I sort of upped my own skill set, and I did did
Yeah.
some could try to keep my skills fresh, and then I started hearing about all these barriers when it came to grants, and I have to say, the first time I actually really explored the barriers was with you, Tia, on that retreat that you invited me to
Oh,
come
our
and
yeah,
present a workshop,
BWIE's retreat.
right? To come and present a workshop on grants. So I go with my little, presentation. I go into this lovely room with some beautiful black women in business, and I sat down. I get ready to my presentation, and I think I was like two or three slides or something in, and
I don't even think you were that far.
no, I don't, maybe not. But the conversation shifted, and it ended up me learning from these women about the
Yeah.
barriers that they were facing in accessing funding for grants, and that they weren't getting the money, that they were seeing roadblocks. So that sort of tweaked my business a little bit more, and then I started having conversations. I mean, with you and with other members of community, really starting to sort of focus on what barriers do exist for
Yeah,
people
absolutely.
when it comes to grants. And I know we've had a lot of discussions, and so I did more listening, than I did actually talking in that retreat. And
We loved it though. We loved it.
I learned a lot. And it was, it was a humbling experience to be invited into that space, and to be able to learn. And so I took that learning and I used it to sort of be able to help in the community, with grants. And so it's just kind of over the last I'd say the last year and a half, maybe even two, is really focusing more on grassroots organizations. Like, my clients are not the big organizations, big business, big nonprofits. My clients are, smaller, grassroots,
Absolutely.
um, folks that need help. And so I've structured my business in a way that I'm able to help these organizations with what they need. I consider myself kind of a little bit of a social enterprise model. In fact, that, yes, I'm paying clients, but the profits that I make in my business, I reinvest back into helping community with what
And
they
you
need.
absolutely, I'm going to say that I can vouch for that. You absolutely do. And another thing, I just wanted to kind of echo off what you said. When you first started this conversation with me today, you talked about that there was a little target niche there that you want to capture. But then you leave, a BWIE retreat, where we brought you in to be the grant expert to tell us what we need to do to be grant ready. And you leave with another really pinpointed target niche of entrepreneurs that overlooking. Everybody was overlooking us, right?
Yeah, yeah. No, it's an area that I was never, I was never a part, I was never in the community. I've worked in the community, obviously. I've, worked at, but I've never actually in sort of,
Okay,
business sense.
Vanessa.
What?
Community as a black person? No, you're not a black person. You're Italian.
Person, look at me.
But for those who don't know, Vanessa grew up in the north end of Halifax. That's where I know Vanessa from, is in the north end of Halifax. She worked at Needham Recreation Center for many years, and she used to supervise myself as an unruly teenager and a lot of other unruly teenagers. So Vanessa's hip to the game, and you kind of know how things move and operate because you've watched it, you've seen it, you've been, as a white lady, you've been around systemic racism, discrimination. So you know where it comes from. So that always gives us a little upper hand too, because Vanessa can get in these spaces and hear the conversations that we will never be able to hear, right?
Yeah. Well, and I think that's the big key. Really is listening. Like, in order to encourage change, you have to listen. Like, I'm not coming
Mm-hmm.
in and saying you need to do this, and these are
Oh, I
rules.
hate that.
Absolutely not. Like, I've come into the community, listening, and we all have our way of doing things. But for me, it's really listening. And we talked about, even before we started recording this podcast, we were
I
talking
know
about.
we were on a rant. We were
We
on a
were on a
rant.
rant. Like, we were on a rant talking about a grant opportunity that's currently open now. I'm not going to say obviously the
I'm
full
not
name.
going to say it either, but we know what we're talking about.
But really, this is an opportunity for, they're looking for nonprofits who are working in the space of helping underrepresented entrepreneurs, small business, to grow their business. But the way the application is set up is that you have to have 2 years of financial audited statements. Well, I said to Tia, like, your organization is a slam dunk for this. Check, 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 check. When it comes to, obviously audited financial statements. Not every organization can afford to
No.
have them audited, or even have them available. But this particular grant opportunity, that's what you need to provide. So what's going to happen? The same organizations are going to get the same pool
Organizations,
of funding.
yeah, organizations like myself and other ones are not going to get the funding. And for me, like we're going on 4 years old, but we're just coming up to our fourth year and doing our first AGM. We have a bookkeeper, but an accountant we do not have. Do I have access to accountants? I have all kinds of access to accountants. Shout out to Stephanie Folahan. But like, it's for me, it just grinds my gears that you want organizations that are working the marginalized, racialized, underrepresented, whatever term you want to goddamn use at this point, because these buzzwords are killing me. You want these, but you only want the ones that have been around for 30 years that now are creating these programs for underrepresented individuals to access this money. And it bothers me because there's roots organizations like myself that are out there that are actually doing the work and have the impact. And we will never be able to obtain the funding. And it's annoying.
Yeah, well, yeah. There's so so many, I mean, in terms of, barriers to organizations with the whole grant space, and we can look at that a little bit, is
Mm-hmm.
we talked about that whole, grant readiness piece, finding opportunities. Like, I mean, there's been times where people just don't have the capacity to do these big applications. Like I was
They're
talking,
long.
right? They take
They're
so long to
long.
do. They're long. Like when people say to you, when I say to people, that took me 30, 40 hours, like what? But they do. Some of these applications, government ones, are ridiculously long.
Oh my God, the ones on the grants contribution one. What the is that
Oh,
federal money or?
yeah, G Coast, the federal ones. Yeah,
Oh my
we don't
God.
do those. I mean,
When I say long, I will say there's one I'll always do. It's the summer youth funding program
well,
for summer.
the Canada Jobs, yeah.
I'll always do that, but I'm telling you that those applications are lengthy, and to do them and then get an email back that unfortunately you weren't chosen after you put in 20, 30 hours, it's really a piss off and it's really disappointing. And they never tell you why. Those grants never tell you why.
No, they won't. And you've just actually one point you sort of when you talked about the time that you're investing, like, and I did this in a LinkedIn post last week was, like when you talk about grants, we say, oh, it's free money. We get this free money. Like
It's not ROI. It's not.
see my little fingers here? Like when I say grants, I say it's quote quote free money for a reason because you just said it.
it's
How
not.
long does it take you to do these applications? Like I love it, honestly, when funders, when you have to send in a short pre-application, a letter of interest, to sort of promote, sort of give them an overview of your idea, what you're looking for. Then they can say to you, okay, we want you to go ahead with the full proposal. I don't dislike that.
Great.
I don't, right,
Great.
right, because that sort of says, okay, you can do a short little introductory 1 to 2, maybe 3
Yeah.
page overview letter. You send it in. If you don't make it to the next phase, okay, you might have spent 5, 10 hours. But you see applications now that you're looking at 20, 30, 40 hours. Like, I mean, I do this for a living, and I mean, this is what I do. But there's so many organizations that don't have
We don't have the manpower.
the manpower
No, we
or
don't.
don't have those resources that are expected to put together these proposals that just can't. And guess what happens? They miss on opportunities. They're not putting the best proposal forward, and then they get intimidated and they don't apply for grants. And that's the problem, is they're not getting the applications from the community because I don't blame. I mean, there's so much work and it takes time, and you get frustrated. And what happens
And
when you
even
get
the
frustrated?
language, the language in
The
it,
language.
when you're talking about grassroots organizations that are from underrepresented communities, 9 times out of 10 there's going to be financial literacy issues. There's going to be terminology issues when it comes to deliverables, outcomes, impact, all these things that they look for in grant proposals that they're not aware of it, so their application hits at a 3 when it could hit at a 10 with the proper resources and the proper education, right? And that doesn't mean that the organizations or the organizations EDs or CEOs or whatever aren't educated. What it means is that these grants are set up for certain organizations and communities to just basically not apply because they know, because I spoke it to a lot of funders, what needs to change, the language, the terminology, and nothing has changed. So at what point are you really intentional about the DEI space, I guess you'll say, when it comes to grant funding? It's a pet peeve of mine.
Right, and I mean, we talked about, the whole sort of DEI space with grants. I mean, everybody everybody wants to
See
check
my
off the
fake
boxes.
smile?
See, you see what? Everybody wants to check off the boxes, right? I've sat in on a few of these DEI sessions, and I mean, people are tired of when you see an application. Okay, you see an application, and the question is the sexual orientation of your board of directors. Okay,
Well,
so
how the fuck am I supposed to know that? Number one, it's illegal for me to go ask my board of directors that. And number two, even if it wasn't illegal, I don't care.
right. So if you're applying for a grant to help feed hungry kids, you're getting asked all these questions about your sexual orientation of your board. What's the makeup of your board? I mean, all these questions that go check, 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 check. And what I don't understand is they never tell
What
you
does
the
it have to do
data.
with it?
Like, you know what
No.
they're doing. They're making themselves, oh, we feel good. We're
Yeah.
doing this. We're doing that. But after a while, there is DEI. There's fatigue, right? Like you keep,
Hmm.
and I have people that
Preach it.
that really look at these questions and they get stressed out because like, well, maybe our board isn't looking. I mean, that shouldn't be the stressful part of the app. I mean, we're all working in DEI. We're all trying to, to do things, but to make people check a box, that's not, I don't agree with that. So the sexual orientation of my board of directors has nothing to do with feeding hungry kids.
Yeah, and it has nothing to do with entrepreneurship either.
Does
So
not.
for me, I
Absolutely
would
not.
just be like NA. And if there was a spot in there, I'd probably ask them a question in that application. Can you explain to me post mortem, like after this application is submitted, why you want to know this answer? Because I would be curious to know, where is this data going? Why do you have this data? What are you using this data for? Well, I mean, I know where it's going, what it's used for, but I want them to say it out loud. They never will, though. They never will. Vanessa, I have a question,
Sure.
because we skipped over it a second ago. We were on it, and then we skipped over because we go on our rants. Um,
You think this wouldn't be rant free?
I know, wouldn't be ranting with Vanessa and Tia. Geez, if you guys were in a space with us, you'd be like, your heads would swirl, because we're always talking about so many different things, but it all comes right back to success of marginalized businesses and organizations. So, what does it mean? Because I say it a lot too, and I have to correct myself because sometimes people don't even know what that means. What does it mean for an organization or a small business to be grant ready?
Yep, absolutely. Good question. So what I hear a lot is people that are in business that want to access grant funding. And
Yes.
we have conversation. They're like, okay, I see there's all this money out there. I need to apply for grants. And the first question I ask them is, do you have a registered business? Some do, some don't, right?
Girl, a lot of them don't. Let's keep it real.
They keep it real. So I'm like, well, I mean, the first step is really you need to have some kind of viable business. So registered joint stocks or registered nonprofit, something that says you're a legal, like some type of entity.
Entity, yeah.
You don't have to be now. On that note, most businesses are like I'm a sole proprietor. A lot of businesses, if you're looking at sort of that bigger, some of the federal funding needs to be incorporated. But most people, to be grant ready, you have to have some kind of viable business. The other thing is, you know, see, like taxes. Are you in good standing with CRA? Right.
Yeah.
I mean, that's another thing. Are you in good standing with CRA and your taxes? The other thing is the registration, the CRA. Revenue. Are you making revenue? Like, I'll tell people, like, if you're not making revenue, that's tough. I mean, that's like the startup space is a tough space. So a lot of
Oh,
people
absolutely. That's why I love it.
right. It's a tough space. It's a tough space to find funding. And so to sort of be grant ready is to kind of have, are you making revenue? Are you able to show some kind of, I mean, we had this discussion, some kind of financial, especially for businesses. Like a lot of business grants will ask for some kind of financial, now not as audited statements, but some kind of
Yes, and I'm okay with that. And
right?
most
And that's
people, I
okay.
hope that they have some sort of bookkeeping system. I know I'm always praising and pushing, using QuickBooks or
Yeah,
Zero and using HubDoc to upload your receipts.
yeah.
So I preach about this often to a lot of the Black women that I work with when they come through my programs. Right from the beginning, get those good habits in action.
And the
Get,
other
if you don't
thing,
have the money right now, at least start an Excel spreadsheet, and then
right?
within 30 days go over to QuickBooks. But audited financials versus QuickBooks to upload, an income statement or summary statement is quite different. So if they don't have that, I would be very, very, very disappointed when they're coming to say I want to apply for a grant.
And do you know how you kind of know where your finances are going and what kind of projections you're going to have? That's what we call a business plan.
Yeah.
And so I have a lot of people. First question I say to them too is like, do you have a business plan?
I think I did a post about this last year, and you were on my
Yes, you and
Instagram.
I connected, wasn't it?
Yes, you were. No, it was a year before then, 2 years ago. You were like, yes,
Because
someone finally said it.
because people don't realize that your business plan is your roadmap,
It
right? So
is.
you're going to have in your business plan your financial projections. You're going to have. Do you intend on hiring? Do you intend on export? I mean, you may not be ready to apply for grants today, but a business plan will let you sort of look down the road of where you kind of need to be.
Yeah,
So that
absolutely.
business plan, if someone says to me they don't now, People that I've talked to that have come out of your cohort have business plans.
They got
Right?
no, you don't graduate without one.
Right? So the kudos there. But I have met with people that don't have business plans, or they can't tell me what their business does. Okay? So they're explaining to me about their business, and I'm like, what the hell do you do? I said, if you can't explain to me what you do, there's no fund is going to say.
Oh, they need to come through BWIE 16-week Ignite program, because when you walk under there, you have to have your 3-minute pitch, and a part of that is your unique value proposition. You have to be able to clearly articulate exactly who you are and what your business does.
Right?
Bottom
And
line.
people can't. People cannot articulate. If you cannot articulate what your business does, you cannot even begin to look at grants.
No.
And the other thing is you need to understand why you need money.
Where's it going? Where is
Grants,
it going?
I mean, grants, yes, they're free money, but you can't spend them freely or have the freedom to spend the grant money. You've got to tie it to something.
Let's be honest, Vanessa, you probably can, but when you do that final report, you're going to be
No, you
fucked.
don't. Oh, you're fucked. In fact, I read an applicant guide the other day, and it said right in the applicant guide, if you have a surplus of money over $50, you have to give it back.
Yeah.
Right? So there's a lot of red tape when it comes to grants. But if you can't even know yourself what your business does, if you don't have a business plan, if you're not registered, I mean, revenue generation, I would say is key. I mean, it's, as I say, when you're not generating revenue, it's a little tougher. Know what you want money for. What's your case? What do you need to do? Are you hiring? Are you exporting? Are you expanding?
What
What do
is
you need?
going on?
Right? If
It,
you cannot
that's so
articulate
true.
that, you're not ready. And I say to people, just because you're not ready today, you can work on those things. And I mean, grants aren't the magic solution either. Like, grants aren't this magic money that comes.
Lord Jesus.
They're not.
Thanks for saying that out loud, because I've had people reach out to me, like literally, I'm going to say 6 to 15 of them a week on social media or email. I'm looking to start a business and I need to know where the grants are at. And my first reaction, I actually have it on my notes in my phone, so I'll copy and paste. And said, here, my first question, is your business registered? Do you have a business plan, 3-year financial projection? Have you done a market analysis? And do you have a marketing plan done up? And if you can't answer yes to all of them, then you're not ready for grants. And you really should look at building your foundation first. But in their mind, it's the first thing. I hate to say it. You're not black, Nessa, so I'll be the one to say it. That I find a lot of black businesses, female, males, non-binary, doesn't matter, have this intentional, oh, I have to get grants. Like they're not looking at investing in themselves with taking a small business loan or a line of credit or an overdraft. They automatically run right to, I need the free money.
Yeah.
And I'm like, where did that turn? Like, when did people, because I've never thought that way in 2012, 2013. Now it's like a normal thing. Start a non-for-profit organization knowing you really don't want to start one because you want a for-profit one. But in your mind, it's easier to get funding to do a non-for-profit. But then you realize when you're a year in, that is bullshit. That is absolute bullshit. Listen, I can go on a rant about that forever too.
I read a good LinkedIn post. Actually, just it might have even been today or yesterday. Someone was talking about startups and grants, and they're like, you know what? Forget the grants. Go out and do some fucking sales.
Girl, preach. Oh, let me tell you, Vanessa, that just hit me nice and hard, and I love that. You need to share that with me. If you can find it on LinkedIn, reshare so I can.
I mean, that was the whole post. Was like, okay, you're in the startup space. You're getting your business started. You're looking for this magic grant money, this free money to do whatever, but you haven't sold anything. How do you even?
You're not even going door to door. I remember, and my fiance will tell anybody, I was delivering newspapers, and he would help me sometimes. But when we first started out the cleaning company, and I say we because he was in it as deep as I was in it, I was going in the Hydrostone, knocking at door to door with a little kit bag with dollar store supplies in it and saying, would you like your house cleaned today? Didn't know what the hell I was doing. Didn't even know how much I was worth charging. I just knew I had to make some money. And I literally scaled by doing that. And I think people have lost the essence of what it's like to be an entrepreneur, to go out there knee deep. And people say bootstrap, and fuck the bootstrap, and go knee deep and make the connections, knock at doors, do the cold. What happened to cold calls, Vanessa? Do the cold calls, do the cold emails. To this day, I still do with everything I do, even my new brand. It is Tia Upshaw. I knew I wanted to capitalize on doing my speaking engagements. Well, not everybody knows who I am, but they're going to know. So I literally went through and I researched over 2 weeks all the business awards that are happening in Atlanta, Canada, all the conferences that are coming up, and I sent my proposals to all of them. What happened to people doing that?
Because people for some reason don't realize that when you have a business, you have to sell. You got to get people buying your shit. Like if they're not buying your shit, like I mean, you can't just rely on grant money. Grant money's there to
They
move your business.
do.
Grant money's there to move your business forward. So, for example, I get a grant every year from Invest Nova Scotia. It helps me pay to go to a conference in the States for grant professionals. But I mean, I'm not relying on that to run my business. Like I have to go out, I have to sell, I have to talk to people, and I built my business. I built, my business over the last 4 years. If I just sat on my ass waiting for grants, well, I wouldn't be doing anything.
It wouldn't work. It wouldn't
Not the
work. But
magic solution. People have to say. I mean, the average success rate for a grant is 30%.
yeah, I was getting ready
Right?
to say, what is that success rate? 'Cause I remember you posted that before.
Right. I mean, so the success rate for a grant is 30%. Now, there's different sort of ways to measure success, but I mean, it's really grants are a great way to sort of put feelers out there for money. It's kind of the ground level where people kind of get in. I
Yeah.
mean, you have to diversify your funding. You got to have from different sources. So yeah, grants are great if you fit the parameters. But honestly, if you're not even out there selling your friggin' product or your friggin' service, you're not generating revenue. It's
There's
not
no, where's the viability? Where is it at?
revenue, you have a hobby, right? I mean, it's like you've got to show that no one is going to give you grant money because they view you as a risk, right? So it's the same as someone's giving you,
Well,
right?
I have to disagree with that one statement. That is one of the problems, that people will, small money will come in at $10,000, $15,000 because they don't care, and then it makes these organizations or businesses think, oh, I don't have to do nothing, I can just keep doing this. So these smaller pots of money, they don't look at them as a risk. They're like, oh, they're marginalized, let's support them so we can check the box. It's not doing them any justice because not everybody's going to feel that way, and it sets them up for failure, and it pisses me off.
No, I like what you said there, and I think you're right. I mean, some of these smaller grants you can apply, you can get them, and it's
Girl,
great,
I've seen it. I
right?
not too long ago, someone said I got $5,000 grant to do something, and she was so happy, and I said congratulations on it. And then I was thinking to myself, but you could have done that with your business without the grant. Why? Like I just didn't I don't know.
I
Yeah.
don't. I mean, it's the thing is, I don't think people realize that, as they say, the grants come with their own issue, and and you and I have had these conversations with people like, where's the grant money? We need the grant money. Why is this infatuation
With
with
grant money.
grants? And I mean, yes, it's out there, but honestly, not everyone's ready. But even when you are ready, you may not be ready for certain opportunities, right? So it's reading. It's
And
reading.
that is the key word, what you just said. You may be ready, but not for certain opportunities. And I have a note here. And I know a lot of the grants for the bigger money, are looking for you to be able to have charitable status. It takes a long time to get charitable status, and it's expensive. I'm in the process right now because I am partnering with a big angel investment company to do something for Black women in Atlanta, Canada. And we're just waiting for this charitable status to come through so that, people who are putting money into it can get that, tax back as an endowment fund type thing. But not even charitable status, but donor ready, partner with an approved donor. Do you know how many people I know who don't even know what the fuck that is?
And for those that don't know, we're on the non-for-profit talk right now.
Sorry,
Um,
guys.
that's okay. Yeah, like the qualified donees. Yeah. So I mean, what T is talking about is if you see an opportunity for if you're a nonprofit, you see an opportunity for a grant, and it says only open to registered charities or qualified donees. Not everyone's a qualified donee. A
No.
qualified donee is a specific type of organization. Registered charity or qualified. If you're a registered nonprofit, you're not a qualified donee, right? So it's very very particular. And I mean, registered charity status can take a long time. I've got clients that have been waiting well over a year for it. Like it's not exactly
Oh, we have been over a
right.
year.
It's not like you don't just apply and whoop you get it. But I mean, it does open the doors for definitely more opportunities. But again, like it's an expense, right? I mean, so
It's very expensive.
expensive
And I said to someone last year, because churches are qualified
there.
donees.
There.
But churches are not going to want to attach themselves to a new grassroots organization to do something because their name's on the line and blah, blah, blah. Another way that people can roll it, and I've seen it done as a qualified donee, is depending on your business model where you're running your organization as a separate entity but still attached to a business.
Yeah.
The business is a qualified donee. But you only learn those things when you're in the white spaces. That's the crazy thing about it. It's insane.
Yeah. No, it is. It is. I mean, and that's the other thing too. I mean, we can get in a whole rant about if different organizations that are geared towards the fundraising industry.
Like, what are they doing? Yeah, I mean, I love fundraising industries. I love what you guys do. But you
For the
know,
record, I'm not a member of that organization.
oh, well, I'm gonna say it then because I didn't want to. For me, I applied through RFP to speak at the Professional Fundraising Association's Maritime, whatever it is happening here. And my speaking engagement was around diversity, equity, and inclusion with regards to funding, grant funding, and how we can be more intentional as funders and as grant writing professionals to ensure that grassroots organizations are able to leverage and obtain. And I was told, oh no, unfortunately, we had a huge selection of RFPs come in and basically didn't make the cut, which is totally fine. But we would like to use you for something else in the future. I said, yeah, absolutely, I would love to do that. And then I look at the speakers, and not one of them look like me. Not one of them act like me. No topic. It was a topic that I was going to cover. And I made sure when I emailed the person back, and I won't say her name, that I said to them, like, I hope that someone is covering this. I don't see it covered.
Last year was the first time they had a grant writing session in that conference in all the years I've gone. I did it with my friend Charles.
But like, I don't understand it. It drives me nuts because I was just in through a horrendous, like, it's a lot of work for leukemia and lymphoma. I did the charity, fundraising charity for them over 10 weeks for Visionaries of the Year. Holy hell. They taught me more about how the charity world works than I think I'll ever learn.
Yeah, it's that's a whole side conversation. Like I worked in that industry for how many years?
Oh my God. Like
I would not go back as an
well,
employee.
can't really say I loved it. But if someone else was going to do the visionary, I would heed them on it. And I would tell them what that entails, because they don't prepare you for what it is. Like I said, I learned a lot, and I'm going to use what I learned, take it away with me. Um, but that's a whole nother can of worms that I don't want anybody to have to feel like, oh, I'm going to get this and I'm going to do that. And it's like, yeah, no, girl, it'll burn you the fuck out.
I,
Um,
I think we have to be real about the whole sort of and just kind of a little bit circle back was like that whole grant space. I think people are just under the impression there's just so much like there is money out there. Like don't get
there is pots of money, but not all money's good money for
not all
you.
money's good money. And and honestly, not all money's good money. Not all money are you going to be qualified for. So you really have to make sure that, and this all boils back to the business plan, whether it's a business plan, whether it's a case, whatever you have that outlines what you're doing and why you need money.
Yeah.
People don't have those materials. If you do not know why you need money, You don't need a grant.
Oh my God. I spoke about this not too long ago. I said, and don't make up something.
Oh my God,
Don't make up something.
no,
That,
but you know why? Do you know why? Because if you make up stuff and you make, and I was, and people say to me all the time, well, how much? Okay, the grant's for $25,000. Do you need $25,000? I'm gonna bump up my budget. No, because what you have to give a report that shows exactly how you spent that money. And this is why this applicant guides, if you have anything over $50 that's left over, you got to give it back.
yeah, there's one thing about creating programs. Like if people can't see my whiteboard, there's a whiteboard, there's four here, and I call it my parking lot, and I have all my ideas and programming, and then I'll put a number by it, and then the framework for that programming's in my documents. But I don't create them because I see funding. Oh, I have programs up there since last year that I want to do, but I haven't found the right way or right partnerships. And that brings me right to what I was going to ask you, because I know partnerships and collaborations are a big part of funding now, especially government funding. What are some of the key elements that you see, Vanessa, as a professional, that make a strong application?
Well, the application process, the biggest thing is you need to know what you're applying for money for, right? So you need to have a clear idea of your project. You need to be able to sort of look at the questions. You need to know
Yeah.
what you're right. A lot of people don't like this. What I tell people is like you really have to understand what you want to do, and really get a clear sense about where your gaps are. But when it comes to answering questions, you really have to adhere to like obviously word counts, character counts, but really answer the question, right? And if you don't understand the question, then you'll figure out how to understand the question. But really, a
You
strong
will.
application is really about alignment. And are you aligned with the funding? You can't make stuff up. You can't fit the circle into the square. That's
I hate
bullshit,
it. And I've
right?
seen
So,
it.
so you have to be able to articulate your project in a clear manner. If you can't do that, the funder can't see that alignment piece. And so that's a really, really kind of key point. But in terms of that, a strong application, you're going to see a lot of applications now are going to ask for partnerships, collaborations.
Yeah.
Long gone are silos, right? We don't live in silos anymore. Hell, I collaborate too. I've got a collaborative partner that I work with on different stuff, and I do other collaborative stuff. I mean, for any business, you have to be open to this because
Oh, absolutely.
there's strength in numbers, but a lot of applications want to see that you're working with somebody else. And there's when you look at applications, you may see like there's a partner. Like a partner would be someone that you're actually doing the project with. You're funneling money through each other. How does that
Yeah.
look? You've got a memorandum of understanding. If you're a
MOU.
not-for-profit, right, an MOU. If you're a not-for-profit, you may be under a trustee agreement, which means you're using someone else's charitable number to apply. There's an
Yeah.
agreement with that. Are you paying them an admin fee in return? You have to be very transparent about that with funders.
And
Now,
some of the colleges, I won't say what ones do that.
yeah,
In Nova
trustees.
Scotia.
Yeah, yeah. I've done a few applications under a trustee, but you got to be very
Yeah.
clear about that. Some funders
Yeah.
don't like that trustee arrangements, but as long as you're clear and upfront about it.
Yeah. You just let them know exactly how it's going to and have how the impact's going to be on both ends, good, bad, and ugly.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, and that's the thing is really, but then you're going to see, like supporters are not like partners. Supporters are ones that would support your project. So when you're asking for letters of support, that's someone who says, "Yeah, we really like Tia's project. We really want to have it in our community," but you're not really organizing the project. You're not
No,
you're
like
just
you.
part of the
I
project.
asked you for one
You
last
did.
year, year before. Oh God, 18 months ago maybe, because we were going after funding for a 16-week Ignite, which we
Right.
did end up
Right.
getting.
So I supported your
Just a
application.
letter, but I didn't say
Right.
let's be a partner.
No. No. But the thing is, what I find with partners is, you just can't have a random partner. They got to be
No.
aligned, right? I mean, I see the people. Oh, I can align with this person, but they don't have anything to do with your like. What's the alignment there,
Yeah, there needs to
right?
be clear alignments. And I said this to, I can't remember who it was. I said, when you're dealing with community grants, stuff like that, like credit union grants, things like that, the readers are usually community members. They're not people that are, commercial bankers.
No.
They cannot piece together things. If they don't see a clear alignment when they're doing the rubric, you're done. You have to look at it that way, that if you're proofreading your application, like I'm talking to you now, Vanessa, and I'm stuttering proofreading the application, then it's going to be a problem for the reader. It has to flow and it has to have a clear alignment.
Yeah, the alignment's the key. You got to show alignment, and that comes back to your business plan, right? I mean,
The
your business
vision, mission,
plan,
and values. Yeah.
everything, like everything that you have, vision, mission, values, all
Yep.
that, it all aligns. And I mean, I think that, and you cannot, you will not ever fit a circle into a square. So if you're not aligning your project or your proposals with an application, you can't check the boxes in terms of what they're looking for in terms of a project, it's not going to work.
Well, you
It's not
can
going to
fit a
work.
circle into a square. I'm a
You can.
circle, and I'm going to a square. Am I joking? Am I joking? How would you guide your clients into? Would you recommend your clients building relationship with the funders before an application is submitted?
Well, if you see a if you see a phone number, an email,
Make
a
that
name,
contact.
like they get paid to answer your questions. Reach out. Like
Yeah.
it's relationship. Well, any business, right? I mean, any business. It's a relationship business. I mean, whether you're
Yeah.
trying to sell something or you're trying to get money. I mean, whether it's anything financial, it's that relationship piece is huge. And don't be afraid to reach out. They get paid. That's what they're there for, right? You
I
got a
be
question.
I be asking crazy bullshit questions just so that my name sticks out in their head in an email.
Yeah, it does. It does. The thing is, you want those questions answered. You got to now. Sometimes there's no way to reach out. I mean, that's sometimes has its own set of challenges. But honestly, like between social media these days and everything else, you can
Yeah,
build relationships with funders.
absolutely.
And I mean, if you can't build relationships, you're not in business. I'm sorry. Like,
Yeah, I tell people that. Oh, I don't want to do this. I don't want to do that. I don't want to go to networking events. I don't want to. I don't want to approach people. Well,
how are you gonna sell?
you just may not be ready for business. You just want to be a hobbyist, which is totally fine. But please, Lord, don't waste my time no more because you can't tell me you're not. I'm not comfortable in business. You have to find those opportunities when they're not even in your face. You have to go reach out and create these opportunities. And if that means they're seeing a funder and you're like, oh, that's so and so. I didn't know. Okay, she's a part of that angel investment company. Walk right over.
Yeah. I have a sign in my well, it's an old drain pipe. It was in my grandfather's bar downstairs. And when he died, I took it. It's hanging on my wall. It says Tony's Bar. Okay. And my
Yeah,
grandfather, he was in sales. Like he sold insurance, cars, everything. And he
of
was very,
course he
very
did.
successful, right? But he said to me, he goes, oh, I don't sell. I have conversations. I build relationships with people. And every year he would say, God, where's the money going to come this year? But you know what? It always showed up because he did exactly that. He would have conversations. He wouldn't be like, I hate selling. I mean, we all sell. It's a skill to learn. If you can't
Everything.
sell, if you can't be
Yeah.
persuasive, you can't sell yourself. You can't sell yourself in a grant. It's no different. It's no
And it's
different.
not going to be good though. You have to be, and you have to be able to, nurture that relationship and keep it going too. You can't just, build a relationship just to get that grant money and let it go,
That's
because you
losing
don't.
somebody.
You're lost. I listen. I like retention. I'm
Retention.
big on retention,
Well,
and if
listen.
I
Well, who are your best clients? They're your
they
retained
are.
clients. It's cheaper to have retained clients than go and find new clients.
And it's easy. People think it's harder. I'm like, listen, it's so easy to get new clients. It's not hard. They come and go. They see you. You're popped up on their social media. They're booking.
Yeah,
But once they book once, you gotta keep them,
yeah. I,
and
I,
that's the hard part.
I really think that with this whole grant space that people have this like magical it's this magic money that flies down from the sky that's going to sprinkle their business and let it
And it takes forever to get. Sometimes I remember the last grant we got approved for a few months ago was supposed to be out in April. May came, June came, and I didn't get till the end of June, July. So I didn't do anything. I was not pushing out nothing until the funds came through. And the lack of transparency, the lack of communication was horrendous.
the transparency
Horrendous.
issue that how much time we got that's a listen the transparent who's getting this money and I
Yeah.
think we need to just quickly touch on that. I mean, I think we're maybe getting close to time, but
No,
touching
no,
on that,
we're good. Who is getting the money?
who is getting the money? And I mean, a lot of times you're going to see these calls for applications. Great, it's for the community. Great, but then you're told that oh no, that list is confidential. Bullshit.
Shit. If it's federal money, so I went and looked. If it's federal money, they cannot say that. Legally, they have to release.
They
They
have to
have to
release.
release the list.
And so, what I'm seeing now, I think it was the Black Opportunity Fund. They actually, it wasn't perfect, but they did release how many applications they got, how many they funded, what areas, applied, blah, blah, blah. They listed, they did all the names, blah, blah, blah. But is it perfect? No, it's not perfect.
No, it wasn't. But at
But
least
why,
they
why
made
is
the
it so?
intent.
But here we look at the country of Canada. I mean, obviously Ontario gets all most
Oh, they
money
always get the big dollars.
because they have people. But we need to have more people down here start applying and putting in applications, but they have to be in a position to do so. So it's just a whole like vicious circle. But
Well, that brings me to my next question. Being in the position to do so, you ever think you're going to do yourself an academy, grant writing academy or something where people have to pay to come through like a 5-weeker or a 6-weeker with you? Honestly, Vanessa. But that adds to my question here. What are some of your long term goals for Vanessa Burns? Oh my God, it's still in my fucking head. Vanessa Burns, grant professional.
I for me, like long term goals, it's like it's really it's educating. It's ensuring that people are understanding the process. And I mean, and you've done some workshops in this space too. Like there's a need for education,
Oh my God! Every time I do a master class, it's
there's a
it's
need.
sold out. There's
There's
a
a need, right?
huge need.
There's a need. There's a need for education, right? I mean, there's no question about it. There's just this whole misunderstanding. So in terms of my business, I mean, I'm already doing a little bit of exporting outside of the country,
Good.
to other clients. I mean, but for me, really, it's ensuring that these grassroots organizations are able to apply for funding, and that's
Yeah.
why I collaborated with someone in my business, to sort of, we're working with some clients on kind of grants and fundraising and stuff. But long term down the road, it's really, I mean, the education piece never stops, and you and I both see this. So leaning more towards that, but really ensuring that people sort of are able to apply
Yeah.
for funding. Like as I said, kind of earlier on in the podcast, like I've given a lot of time of my own time to help people. We say don't do work for free. I mean, listen, I have the prerogative. I want to do work for
I
free,
do it all the
right?
time. I don't do it as much as I used
No, I
to
don't. I
because
don't either. But in order to sometimes move somebody forward, you kind of have
you
to
have
invest
to
their
just give
time,
them, a couple hours.
right?
Just call
Right.
it as an in-kind service, whatever.
Right. But
Um,
really, it's making it things accessible, and it's just I think this is just an area of business and frankly in nonprofits. It's just going to grow. Like you and I have seen changes over the last few
oh,
years.
huge changes.
People every time you look, people want to know more information about grants. It's a big space, right?
In
It's a big
2020, I had never heard anybody talk about grants. All they were talking about was SIBA.
right. I mean,
SIBA. And now the grant space, the conversations are everywhere. So it's not just in the marginalized communities, everywhere.
everywhere. It's everywhere, and I mean, it's one of those things that I mean, it's is it perfect? Nope. Are there barriers? Yup.
Yeah.
Right. So that's all work that we have to do. That I will keep doing in my own business is to look at barriers and help
Oh,
reduce
me
barriers.
too. I'm never going to stop that.
No, right? And I mean, I think hopefully between the two of us, we can get some good
Oh,
results.
people get sick and tired of me and Vanessa. They'd be like, "Oh my God, why are they back again?"
Well, you know what? Because people listen to us. I mean,
Literally.
we're bringing different perspectives, and I think that's really something to kind of I'm not in the community, right? I mean, I don't. I mean, I have a different experience, so I
Yeah.
think having different outlooks, different opinions, and learning from each other, like and learning from other folks, like being able to listen and being able to understand what the issues are and taking it back to
That's it right there. Listening, taking it back to advocate on their behalf.
yeah. I mean, and I always say, like, when I go into spaces where I'm networking in predominantly, Black African Nova Scotian spaces, I'm there to learn. Like, I'm there. I mean, and won a
Yeah.
few door prizes, I think, lately. But I mean, I'm there.
Girl, you
I'm
always
there.
be winning. You
I
you
know,
be
but I'm
jeez.
there to learn. Like I'm there to learn.
As she says she's there to learn, no, she's there to get the door prizes, people.
Not. I don't usually win, so it's kind of exciting. But no, I mean, but really, I mean, I went to an event. I think it was at Delmore Buddy DBLI, I think, and I literally sat there the whole day and listened.
And it felt good. Yeah, I bet you were
And it
just
felt
writing
good.
notes,
It
your
wasn't. It wasn't
notepad.
my space to say anything. It wasn't my space to speak up. I listened, but people are uncomfortable with that. People
Yeah.
can't put themselves in a space and just
Oh,
sit
yeah,
there
like
and listen.
they
I
have to give their opinion. I'm like, shut up. It's not
do it
even
all the
your
time.
face. I don't say it out loud, but I roll when I roll my eyes. You usually look at me at events, so you know my look. When I'm at an event, I'm just like,
Well, there's some events that I don't go to because
yeah,
there's no
I'm.
value for me.
There's no value anymore, I've learned that, and I'm just. But everybody has to go through it to understand it because someone was watching me 3 years ago and was like, "There's no value in YT is going, but whatever." Now I'm watching people that are going to events and going hard for certain things. I'm like, "There's no value in it. They'll never allow you to have a value in it, but you have to learn on your own." So I'm right behind you, Vanessa.
Yeah, yeah. But I mean, there's certainly from that diversity, equity, inclusion. Like that's that is a part of my business. But honestly, a lot of my business is going into community and listening.
And listening and educating,
I
giving
can
your
talk about
golden nugget.
hardcore skills and this that, but when it comes to learning about issues in community, I listen.
And I
I'm not
vote
going
for
to be here
that.
saying you need to do this, this, this. That's not my place.
Yeah,
That's
I
not my
vote
place.
for it because you do listen. You came and you were just like, huh? Huh? Like, I think we spent 2.5 hours,
Oh,
3 hours,
oh yeah. It was about, at least 2 hours.
and then you didn't want to leave. Like,
No.
you were still puttering around. I think Stephanie was after you doing the accounting, and you were still in the kitchen, I think, talking to Missy. Like, you were like, what an eye opener. Like,
It was
what?
the first time I actually ever heard those experiences. And that to me was like, okay, I'm not here to tell people what the solution is. I'm not here to tell people how, but I can certainly be, help to influence a solution,
And you have. You
right?
have.
And I think that's what it's all about is, you get, it all goes back to, these funders with these DEI questions and this and that and the other thing, they're checking off boxes. And I always say
All the time.
I hate when people do that. Like all I can do as a as someone who does work in community is listen, advocate, but I'm not the one who's. I mean, in terms of like designing solutions and this and that,
Mm-mm.
that's not my place.
It's not our
Not
place,
my place.
and we can advocate every day, all day. All we can do is educate. When it comes to our place, we can educate people who are applying. Let them know the things that they need to do to get themselves ready. And that brings me to basically my last questions. What advice would you give any organization or small business from the underrepresented communities who are just starting to explore grants?
Write a business plan.
Yes.
No, I I think the key really is to talk to others who have applied for funding. I mean, see who else is out there applying for funding. Talk about their own experience, especially if you're kind of just getting started in the space. Go with the mindset that it's not the be all end all for funding for your business. There's a lot more we talked about in terms of what you really need to do
Yeah.
in your business, sales. you know,
Uh
but,
huh.
but
Door to door, cold
but
calls.
really, if you want to get started in the space, find opportunities that you think you are aligned with or look interesting. And where do you find those opportunities? Well, I mean, there's different databases available. We're not going to go into all this obviously in the podcast, but I mean, there's different databases. I mean, I know Tia, you have obviously different lists of opportunities. I have
Yeah.
different lists of opportunities. I mean, there's different areas to find them. You can do like government searches, Google searches. You can find some stuff. But I mean, if you were looking at a grant that was of interest, then talk to people about it. You can talk to T. You can talk to me. If you're interested in finding out more information, see if you're a fit for the
Absolutely.
grant. But really, don't be afraid to apply. And I think that's the biggest thing. Is yes, it takes time. Yes, it can be work. But we can't make change unless people apply. We can't make we need to know why people are not getting approved. We need to know why the money's not going into the community. And the only way we can know that is if people put in applications. Like I've had a lot of people say to me, "Oh, I can't be bothered." Well, you need to be bothered because it helps. We need those
You
stats.
have to get the
We
numbers.
need
And
statistics.
another thing that I found was very intentional for me, what I've decided to do, and I don't even announce it. A lot of people don't even know what committees I'm on. I'm on a lot of committees for certain grants that come out in the community and whatnot. And I was intentional about that because I was sick and tired of seeing the underrepresented communities not getting the grants.
Yeah. Well,
So if you have the time to put yourself in a position to be a part of that change, do it. And I don't announce it because I don't want to conflict of interest either. I see a lot of applications coming through and I'm like, "Oh, I'm so glad she applied." um yeah, you have to be a part of the change, Vanessa, honestly.
yeah, you do, and I think you made a good point in terms of that committee. Like you need to, to sort of be successful in the space, as we talked about this, was that relationship piece. I
Yeah.
mean, there are barriers with funding. There's no question about it. We've talked about them, but there are good opportunities out there. There
There
are.
are good,
There
and there
are
are
good
good people
opportunities
that
out
are
there.
making the changes and arguing on your behalf.
Like,
Not just speaking about me, about other people that I know who are on similar committees, and we've discussed amongst each other, like, how could those four people vote, give them the rating of a 4 or 5 when the impact is quite clear? There's a bias there, and we've called it out. So I mean, we are in the background doing work. Um, and like I said, I would never announce what committees and organizations or what financial institutions that I sit on for grants, but I
you know
will
why? Because
say
people will be calling you all the time.
absolutely. I will say that there are people that are fighting you guys, and there's a lot, female and male, blacks. This year was good if you noticed, with the numbers of blacks, females, and males, organizations or businesses, was quite different than previous years. So we're in the
That's
back
what we're
end
talking
doing,
about there.
we're doing it, Vanessa. We're doing it. So
There's definitely, I mean, and I think that's one thing to kind of focus on too is, I mean, it's not all the doom and gloom, right? There's been a lot of really, there has been progress.
yeah, there has been progress.
I mean, definitely, as I say, I mean, I have pulled my money out of organizations that I don't see progress,
Yeah,
or I see a lot of this. But there is the movement to make change, kind of in that funding or business type of landscape. Does it happen overnight? No. Same in grants. Like we're not, the grant process isn't going to change overnight. It's having people that can advocate and say, okay, like this, because even organizations that are from the community are not perfect in
nope,
this space, right? I mean,
nope.
they definitely come with their own. So nobody's perfect, right? I mean, listen, nobody's perfect.
Let's all just be perfectly imperfect.
Right. Let's all be perfectly. I like that. Perfectly imperfect. Right. We'll give it a shout out to Anita Kirkbride, who's running for counselor in Kent.
Yes, absolutely.
Awesome.
I
All
want to
for
say
it.
twerk,
Yeah.
twerp.
Chirpy Communications. Anita. She always says, don't you're floss 'em," and I think that's a good thing. Like we're all trying to be who we are. We're all trying to make changes and this and that, the other thing. But don't be afraid that we're going to make mistakes. Like the
Yeah.
grant space isn't perfect, but some funders are really trying to make changes. Others just, if you this like one of the if you really want to follow something, follow crappy funding practices on LinkedIn.
That's a good one. I'm going to go to that later
That
on
is a
then.
good one. That will you. There is one funder there that is asking for 20. That's 20 copies of your application mailed to them. This is what I'm talking about. Not everybody's adapting.
Mailed?
Mailed.
Well, that I guess that ends us off with the bang, you guys. I just want to say thank you very much, Vanessa. It was a great conversation as always, girl. Every time we get together, it's always good, but very enlightening, very educating, and I hope the listeners and the viewers are going to take something from this. If you guys want to get a hold of Vanessa, I will be putting her LinkedIn or her email above. You'll be able to do that and connect with her. And like she said, reach out to other people, talk to other people who've received grants to see how it went for them. But the bottom line is that we have to start applying for grants to get our numbers out there for Atlantic Canada. and especially for the underrepresented communities. And also, if you're able to advocate or be intentional with driving a change within the grant space, please take a moment and be an ally for us in that space too. So if you guys loved this segment today, I know you did. If you loved it today, make sure you tune in every single Friday at 12 p.m. You can subscribe to our YouTube and our Spotify. And until next time, you guys, again, I am Tia Upshaw, and I'll see you guys later. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Thank you for listening to Identity Shift. See everybody next week.